Fantastic. Khalid, welcome to the podcast, my friend. Thank you so much for jumping on. You are from Sidekick, right? And basically, as you know, we just talk email marketing on this podcast. Tell me what Sidekick is, what it does, and how anybody can really use that platform.
Absolutely, man. So first of all, thank you for having me on. Very happy to be here. I just love talking about email marketing. I can do it all day. so
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So Sidekick, awesome. Yeah. So Sidekick basically it's how do I describe it? The best way actually would be to think of it as a combination of ChatGPT and Canva, but for the purposes of email marketing, right? So what it does is you select what type of an email campaign you want to send out. You feed it a few pictures, your product URL, and what it does is it takes in all of that, combines all of that, and builds a ready-to-go email campaign for you, fully written, fully designed, with all the links and stuff in less than a minute. That's how we think of it. So it's basically a productization of our agency's services.
And is it creating these emails in HTML, or is it creating like product blocks or image blocks that you can export and then write your own text into, for example, Klaviyo, or are you exporting it as code?
So right now, at the moment, we're only able to export it as image. Obviously, that sucks. And very soon, I think in a matter of a couple of weeks, we should be able to export this as HTML code in Klaviyo very soon, other platforms as well. Now, due to the limitations of the API, once you export it, you can't actually edit the blocks anymore. So you kind of have to treat Sidekick's editor as your Klaviyo editor, and then once you're happy with how everything looks and feels, you send it over to HTML, and it gets exported as HTML code with live text and everything.
So what this is basically a massive time save, right? So you're getting prompts, ChatGPT, it scripts and it designs them. Is it creating new imagery for your emails, or is it using the imagery that you've already given it?
So right now, we do need brands to provide what images they want to use. Eventually, we want to get to a point. I mean, you must have seen Canva's.
Of course.
Yeah, what they're doing with generative AI. I think that's the easiest one to use. And of course, there's other tools like Midjourney and some others. Yeah, so we eventually want to get to a point where you could generate images into it as well. But at the moment, for now, you have to provide the images and a product URL, and then it's able to take all of that and build an email for you.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, full transparency, I actually haven't even used this yet, but I'm on the website now, literally as we speak.
Yeah.
And the designs look clean. They look tidy. I'm digging them. You guys are using this for your own clients as well? Is that right?
We are actually. So before we even rolled it out to the public, we kind of used our own Turing test, if you can call it. So what we decided was what we're going to do. We're going to use this to build some emails and send it to clients. And if they approve without any edits, then we are ready for the public. And that happened 6 weeks ago. And then we kind of made a half-baked version of it. I still say it's half-baked because there are some obvious features that are still missing. But yeah, we let people try it. We got a lot of useful feedback. Like, for example, the HTML export, right? It's the number one thing. Everybody keeps requesting it. We were able to collect some interesting survey insights. Like 50% of everybody who we asked about if they prefer sending emails as image or text actually said 50% of them said that it has to be HTML. They will not send out an image-based text. So yeah, there was a lot of things we got to learn just about email marketers and people who build and create emails. That was very exciting. But yeah, the product still is pretty early stages, and we are expecting to add a lot of features very soon.
I'm going to give it a go. I mean, I see you got the free trial sorted out on here, so I would love to give that a little whirl. Yeah.
What do you think?
How many people have you guys got on board at the moment using it?
At the moment, we had, I think last count, we just crossed 500 users. Not like recurring users, but people who have used it to build at least one email. I think about a very small percentage, like 6% actually came back and used it to build again. Few brands are actually actively using it. And my first surprise was a couple of weeks ago when I subscribed to one of their newsletters and received an email that was completely built by Sidekick. So that was a very exciting moment.
Yeah, that's fun. And so that story of like you guys creating this platform, it seems like a really common agency path, really, where it's work with clients, provide a service, find a problem that you then create an app for. or as some sort of SaaS, right? Is that what you guys did?
Yeah, man, that's exactly what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So earlier this year, and you may be familiar with this problem, I guess, but like e-commerce saw a very big boom, I would say, a couple of years ago. But starting this year, I feel like that kind of started waning off a little bit. Makes sense. The economy is not in the best place. And what we noticed is we were talking to a lot of brands that no longer had the purchasing power that they did last year, right? So last year when I was talking to business owners, everyone was like, yeah, sure, we will pay $4,000 to $6,000 a month for email creation. That's not a big problem. We can afford that. That makes a lot of sense. Suddenly this year, most of them were like, oh, sorry, we actually can't afford that anymore, right? And so we were thinking, okay, how can we service clients who cannot afford to pay for our services at the moment? Because it seems like the price tag is a little too high. And it seemed like we could not do it until we were able to bring the cost down a little. So we started looking at, what exactly is leading to these costs. Because if you want to have a good email program, right, there's so many, there's so many moving parts. You need a good strategist. You need a sick designer, somebody to write those emails, and you can't skimp on any of these. And if you want to hire people who are, worth their salt, it's gonna, the price adds up. Then we thought, okay, what can we do to reduce the costs? That's when ChatGPT became a thing, took the world by storm, and we just saw an obvious connection. We're like, wow, this is revolutionary. Like, we couldn't believe that we hadn't heard about GPT, and obviously tools like Jasper have existed for a few years now, right? But then it just never clicked for us in a way until we saw ChatGPT in action. Then we're like, okay, I think this is an interesting problem to solve, and it's not going to be extremely difficult to solve. So let's try it out, and that's how we started working on the app.
So, question then, when it comes to these email designs, right? So if I run through my process with my clients, we have the ideas, right, which we come up with, then we script, and then we design. Now, a lot of the times, the first draft that we have doesn't get approved by the client. There's a few adjustments and stuff like that need to happen. Is it easy to make those adjustments with Sidekick?
Yeah. At the moment, you can very easily edit the text to whatever you want. And as you change the text, the design's going to change with it, whether it needs to expand, the text boxes need to expand, shrink, all of that happens. If you need to adjust the images, you can do that as well. You can easily add or delete sections. That being said, it doesn't have the robust capabilities that you'd expect from Adobe softwares or from Canva even, right?
Sure.
But the goal is to get there, eventually get there.
Because we use Figma for everything, and then it becomes like a collaborative tool, right, where the client can comment. On top of that, the designs that you guys build, are they optimized for dark mode? Do they have that functionality built into them?
At the moment, no. But that is something that we need to get to, because, like I said, most marketers, email marketers, like half of them that we asked and filled out our survey, said that they will not send out an email if it's purely image-based. Now, of course, with HTML, it becomes tricky, right? Like you enter dark mode and suddenly nothing is readable anymore, and the logo looks funky, and then some parts of the email have a white background, others are completely off. So that is definitely going to be a big challenge for us to figure out, but I'm pretty sure we will figure it out.
And does it optimize for different devices, right? Because obviously with email marketing, everyone's looking at their emails from different devices: mobile, desktop, Apple, iPhone, Pixel, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It is set in a way that allows it to quickly look between those two.
Yeah, so once we enable the HTML export feature, that's exactly what it's going to be like. And that's where we think most of the time savings are going to come, right? Like, you can have a beautiful email design, I would say pretty fast. And if you have good systems and you're using tools like Figma, you have a good designer, it's not that hard. What actually takes time is making sure that this email now looks solid across different devices. Right, that is where it can take a lot of time, and that's not the sexiest kind of work. It is a lot of boring work. So what we want to do is eliminate that need, like, so that you don't have to worry too much about that, and what you can focus on, all of your brain and all of your creative power, is on building incredible planning and building incredible email content.
Roger that. Okay, cool, fantastic. Man, that's awesome. I'm gonna check this out. I'm gonna see how it works. I'm excited. I want to talk to you a little bit about, your kind of your LinkedIn, really, to be honest, and how that's reaching direct-to-consumer business owners, and what you are finding business owners resonating with when it comes to the content that you put out. What works well? What have you seen have like an uptick? Give me the rundown.
Yeah, for sure, man. So when I'm having my conversations with D2C business owners and why they're reaching out to me, I'm seeing a very clear pattern, right? Now, for a long time, there's been, I think, and this is for the good, like there's been a lot of discussion about things like deliverability, segmentation, and just overall strategy of like, how should you segment, what offer should you promote to your customer base? All of that's extremely important, right? But what I noticed a gap was there on LinkedIn for was actually just content itself, right? Like, okay, it's excellent. We know that we should be segmenting. We know that deliverability is important, and there's a lot of people who can tell us about, how do we maximize deliverability and lower unsubscribe rates, not hit spam. All of that's great, but then what do we actually send to customers that keeps them engaged over a long term and helps us actually boost our retention, right? By which I mean, like, somebody needs to like your brand enough that they continue buying from you, right? And a lot of that depends on the brand itself, the products that you're selling. But I think email can actually play a very strong part over there because it's a communication channel, right? And if you abuse it, and if people stop paying attention to your emails, then you lost them over there, and it's no longer a weapon that you're able to use. But if you treat your email channel right, and you can actually use it to form a good connection with your subscribers, and they like you, then you can actually influence them with your emails, right? So what my whole idea has been for creating LinkedIn content is, how can I help people create better email content for their subscribers? And that's why you'll see me post a lot of the things that I post, like what different types of email content are we using, and then breaking down email from other brands that I consider are doing a good job, and sometimes even a bad job, just to give people a different, a wide variety of examples of what they should do, what they should not do. But ultimate goal is to help inspire brands and email marketers to up the level of their own content.
And what does a good relationship strategy look like from email when it comes to brands communicating with their subscribers? Because we talked a little bit about making sure that we're not, I mean, I saw one of your posts where it's like, don't make every single one of your emails a sales pitch, right? Or a sales. And I totally agree, right? You can't keep bonking people over the head. But what does that look like, in lieu of that, right? In the absence of like constant promotions and sales, what are you implementing for your clients to kind of get them across the line there when it comes to just building that relationship?
Right. Okay. Let's look at the other extreme, right? So obviously, I think we all can agree that sending a sale or a promotional email for every single one of your emails is probably not a good idea unless you're maybe a dollar brand store or like a discount store. It does not make sense. But let's look at the other spectrum, right? Newsletters, for example. I love newsletters. Like if you take The Hustle, for example, it's one of my favorite newsletters. When I open emails from them, I've never actually seen, like, the core idea is never a promotion. It's always some interesting story that I'm reading. And that's why I'm subscribed to them, right? Like I want to find out what these stories are. And they make it so interesting to read, right? It makes me feel like I'm smarter when I'm reading them, and then it gives me things that I can go and talk about in my day with other people, and then they think that I'm smart. So that's kind of the reason why I read The Hustle, and there's other newsletters that I follow for other different reasons. But the core principle is that they give me some sort of information or some sort of entertainment while I'm reading them, and that's why I continue to read them. Now, on the other spectrum, we have e-commerce brands where the goal is not, we're not running media outlets. The goal is not to entertain or educate people. The goal is to sell products. But the thing is, if the only thing we did was try to push products, then people lose interest. Your messages start falling on deaf ears. So I think what e-commerce brands need to do is actually steal a page from media companies and figure out that, okay, we exist within a certain niche. We exist within a certain industry which is trying to solve a certain problem, and people will consume information related to this problem, if not from us, but from somewhere else. Now, what can we do to provide them the answers that they're looking for somewhere else, right? And that does not necessarily mean like the way most people, I think where most e-commerce brands go wrong is they'll try to do a little bit of keyword research and be like, okay, if you're having hair fall, how do you prevent hair fall? Find an SEO optimized article, take like 10 tips from there, and then repurpose that into something. I don't think that's the right way to go about it, right? Like, because that makes sense when they're searching for information and then that SEO optimized article is presented to them. But when you're sending a newsletter, you're not solving a search query. You're actually interrupting them. And so when it comes to this, I think you should look more at TikToks. Like, TikTok is completely interruption based. You're just scrolling and something stands out to you. Now, why did that thing stand out to you, right? Like it was same thing, and when applied to TikTok might be some very weird trend, like maybe using a very weird combination of egg yolks, onion juice, etc. for your hair. So here, check out this absolutely bizarre thing that we tried out to reduce hair fall. You can do something like that on TikTok. It works. Now, how do you take that, repurpose that, and turn that into your newsletter content? Then you can then send out, and then suddenly you're no longer just pushing sales and products, but you can actually push content that gets people to stop, engage with you. And the more they engage with you and find value in the content that you're promoting, the more they start liking you. And the more they like you, you can actually have a higher chance of converting them the next time you send out a sale or a promo.
I love the idea of using TikTok video ideas for email newsletter ideas. I think one big thing, I totally agree, is looking at goodwill almost as if it's a currency. And when you build goodwill between your readers, which is what you were just saying, right? Like educating, providing value, not selling all the time, you can trade that goodwill in for genuine or actual revenue down the road. Build up enough goodwill over like 2 or 3 emails. But I mean, that's the whole purpose of a welcome series, right? You have your welcome series. Your first email is always designed to provide the incentive that was offered through the sign up form. Now, sometimes if you're not running like a discount code, you can absolutely provide like a PDF, an ebook, or just like a quick update. But throughout that welcome series, it's just value, 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 value. And then near the end, if you do have like a 5-part, 6-part welcome series, split people off based on their interest, and then deliver the pitch, essentially, right? And I mean, that's essentially what you and I are doing in the B2B space, right? On LinkedIn, which you can find in the link down below. There's us just giving value, right? We're just educating, and obviously it's not selfless, right? Because it is an angle to it. Naturally, we want people to think of us as an authority, and then it comes back full circle. Boom, it comes to us to solve that problem. Exact same thing. Yeah.
Right, man. It is about developing that authority, right? And when people think you have authority, that is one of the core principles of persuasion, right? That increases your ability to convince them to try out your product. And how do you build that authority? You can't do that by just pushing sales and promotions always. You need to take an authoritative stance on some things within your niche. And then, of course, you need to send out valuable content that establishes authority. And yeah, that you build up that goodwill, and then that is when that in the future you can convert that goodwill into real hard dollars. And that works in B2B, it works in D2C, it works everywhere.
One thing that I found really interesting, and this is something I hear quite a bit, is, I mean, I'm a big fan of just sending more emails, right? The more emails you can send, the better. Obviously, very rarely, I think, is it a conversation or a decision between quantity or quality. It's like just try and do both if you can, and that's where hiring an agency comes in if you don't have the capacity. But a lot of people say, I don't have enough to talk about, or like I only sell 5 products. I don't have enough ideas or content to kind of come about. How do you help people with that? Like, what have you done to expand on those angles that somebody, can say they only have one angle to talk about? How do you expand those?
We were working with a brand that was willing to experiment sending 1 email every single day. So 30 days, 30 emails. And what made it tricky was they only had 1 product. They were selling 1 SKU in their store. We had to, it was a 3-month-long experiment. So we had to send 90 emails in 90 days about 1 thing. And that was hard, man. That was hard. We thought for a long time, like, we were running out of things to talk about. Like, what do we do over here? So this is what we did. We actually hired somebody else. Like, we hired a new writer, right? So the typical way that agencies work, I guess, I'm assuming it's probably the same in yours, is like you have a batch of clients, and then you have one copywriter who kind of handles maybe 2, 3, up to 5 clients, depending on what their bandwidth is. And maybe on top of that, you can layer in a content strategist who works with them, and they also work on the same 3 to 5 clients. What happened was increasing the output was such a big constraint, and then we ran out of ideas. Turns out all we needed to do was hire a fresh set of eyes, and they came in and they started doing their research. And once you realize that, okay, it's not about, every single email does not have to be about the products and features of the product itself, but it should be about the problem that the product is solving, right? So in this case, it was a laser hair removal IPL device, right? And that's a device, sure, but then what problem is it solving for people? It's the problem is having unwanted hair on your body. Now, when it comes to unwanted hair, there's a lot of things you can talk about. You can talk about bad alternatives. You can also talk about good alternatives, but why this product may be better. And then you can talk about, you can take that a bit further, and this can be about somebody's confidence, about how they feel, whether or not they feel secure within their own body. So you can stretch it as much as possible. Obviously, there's a point beyond which, if you start stretching it, it's no longer relevant to the audience. But sometimes if you're stuck, you can't think of how far you can take this. The best thing to do is actually get external help. Like, if needed, hire somebody else, whether that's a consultant, whether that's another team member you need to add, or maybe within your team, you could have other members take a look at the account, at the problem, and be like, hey, what do you think, right? And their solution probably is going to be like, obviously they need to do their own research about this thing. But typically, if you're trying to create this type of content, like, where do you go? You scour websites like Reddit, Pinterest, communities where people already gather and talk about these things, and then you figure out, okay, what all are they talking about? All the TikTok channels that are that also tackle this problem or related problems, what are they talking about? And that gives you a fresh set of ideas. And yeah, that's how we would go about it.
Yeah, I think there's so many angles that can be explored, not even like with the individual product, right? But it's like, think about the industry that the product is in, and that can be expanded out into a million ways. Something that I've seen work really well is, ChatGPT's a thing that's thrown around all the time, but you can literally go into ChatGPT and just say, hey, here is the product description, come up with 5 unique angles that I can write about that hit each different, provide a different solution for this problem in 5 different ways. There's a bunch of ways you can extrapolate on that. I know I just butchered my explanation there, but I'll see if I edit that out. But yeah, I think for the most part, the variations are really endless there. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, dude. Well, we're coming towards the old end of this. Tell us a little bit more about how people can find you, what you can kind of help them with, and all that good stuff.
So you can find me on LinkedIn. That is the place where I am the most active. I reply to each and every single message, so don't hesitate to shoot me a message about anything. Like, even if you're just curious and you want to chat email marketing, that's basically what I do all day. So I'm assuming the link is probably going to be somewhere below wherever they're listening to it. So yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me in terms of how I can help. I'm always looking to, first of all, exchange my perspective on email marketing and hear other people's perspectives, right? So the first thing actually is, you could help me, whoever's listening to this, if you have a unique perspective on email marketing, I'd love to hear it. So let's get in touch and let's talk about it. But other than that, if you guys need assistance with email marketing also, yeah, I'm always open to that. Just shoot me a message and tell me a little bit something about your brand, and then let's see what we can come up with.
Fantastic. Khaled, thank you so much for coming on, mate. And yeah, as you mentioned, links will all be down in the description for pretty much wherever you're listening or watching this to. Cool. Awesome. Dude, thanks for jumping on.
Thank you, Gavin. It was a pleasure.